Same drill.
Cool.
Just make sure this goes.
Oh, no, tag me.
No.
Oh, not in
It's
this
too
one.
much work.
Yeah. No, not in this one. You're right. I have to share these.
Okay. We are live for real this time. Somebody may have seen me and my son on here. I accidentally hit live earlier, but this is the real deal. Welcome to day 4. We're happy to have a friend and mentor of ours, Christine Keegan, with us from Connecticut. And I know, Christine, you've been in network marketing for about 6 years now, and you've been in a couple companies. You've seen some things. You've been at the top of the company. And so we're super appreciative of your time and happy to have you on, and really look forward to learning from you today and just asking you a few questions. And so the first thing we just want to jump right into is why did you say yes to network marketing in the beginning? What was that day one experience for you?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on here. It's always great to see both of your faces. The whole funny part about my journey is I didn't even realize I was joining a network marketing company when I started. I was approached by a friend from college. I was a teacher at the time. I was coaching 3 varsity sports. So I was leaving my house at like 6:15 in the morning, and I was getting home at 8 o'clock at the earliest on a good day. And I was tired. And she knew that I had this little bit of a travel habit. So she approached me and asked if I was open to, another way to earn some extra money. And I was like, well, duh, always. Why wouldn't I be? And that's kind of always been my mentality. Like, I know I have X amount of hours in the day. How can I the most efficiently figure out how to earn money? And, if it meant when I was younger, if it meant babysitting for 2 and 3 families at a time, I would do it. So I said, sure, and joined a skincare company. I didn't wash my face at the time, didn't really care about skin, and grew a pretty big business pretty quickly. And I think the biggest reason why I fell in love with it, and it wasn't day one, it was probably 6 months in that I really started to understand what about network marketing I loved. It was the personal growth and development and the professional development. Being a teacher, they call it professional development days, but it was really us sitting and listening to lectures that they had to, get certain standards covered for their own behinds for, governmental stuff. But we never got professional development. We never had personal development. Nobody ever told us to read books or watch videos. And I fell in love with that piece of the industry. And all of a sudden, my energy changed. People started to notice it. I was doing a better job in the classroom. I was doing a better job as a friend. I was doing a better job as an everything. And I was like, this is all because I started to sell some skincare products. And it's the whole big, it's the big picture of what you're doing to sell the products, but it's, it's all that background that kind of made the magic happen.
Got it. That's fascinating. And, personal development is probably one of the biggest things I think for both of us. So we can totally relate. So you mentioned like 6 months in that you really started to get it. When was it that time or when was the decision that you're like, you know what, like I'm going to do this for life. Like I want this to be a full-time thing. Like this is something I can see myself doing, for the foreseeable future.
It's a interesting question because about a year in, we were at I think we were at convention or a corporate retreat or something. And someone in my upline, her husband said to me, so what are you going to do when you leave teaching? And I was like, why would I ever leave teaching? I live in the Northeast, right outside New York City. We get paid very well for teachers. I was making a nice 6-figure salary at that point, had, healthcare, pension, all that stuff. And I was like, why would I ever leave that? And he's like, talk to me when you have your first 5-figure month. And I was like, who makes 5 figures a month in this? Like, you would have to work 80, 90 hours a week to do that. He's like, trust me. And about 3 months later, I had my first 5-figure month. And I really started to get past that employee mindset of having security, versus having there's no ceiling to what I can earn kind of mentality. And that was in about 2016-ish. And then my business came to a plateau. And I was making a steady 5-figure monthly check, but I wasn't growing. And I started to say, okay, what if I was able to step away from teaching or step back from teaching? What would my business look like then? Because, most people don't do this full time. It wasn't created to be a full-time thing. It was created to complement what anybody was doing, but it is possible to do it full time. So when I started to get that vision of, I understood what compounding your own investment, your own time investment into a business could look like. So if I was doing 10 to 15 hours a week and I had, let's say 100 people on my team doing 10 to 15 hours a week, what if I stepped that up just a little bit and everybody kind of stepped it up just a little bit? What would that look like? And then I made my plan to walk away from teaching. I ended up leaving a year earlier than I thought I was going to, because sometimes when you have that opportunity, it's like, okay, I'm going to go on some blind faith here and make it happen.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. So it really was, I mean, it's been a huge impact in your life, obviously, right? In terms of fully changing your career and your focus and sort of how you show up, I guess, right? So what would you say is like the biggest thing? Obviously, personal growth has been big. What's been like the biggest thing that's come out of, being in the industry and probably out of personal growth that you could walk away and say this one thing has been worth the whole experience?
I would have to say that especially since changing companies, the biggest thing has been being open to mentorship. I never had somebody pour into me before. And I was always kind of like, nope, I got it. I don't need anybody's help. I'm going to figure this out on my own. Kind of like the dryer, right?
Yes. Inside joke. You just got a little insight.
So I was like, I'm going to handle this on my own. And I would do it. And it was just kind of this stubborn mindset of independence and I'm going to make this happen. So when I came here, and I saw what leadership looked like, I never had real leadership before. It was just, go do this, go do that. It wasn't helping me peel back the layers of who I am. It wasn't helping me push through fears. It wasn't helping me eliminate excuses and showing me what true leadership looks like. So being open to mentorship and allowing somebody to call me out on things and pour good things into me and spend time with me and let me lock arms with them has been the biggest takeaway from this. And I don't think you have to be in network marketing to have a mentor in your life. You have to choose wisely. It should be somebody whose life you maybe want to mimic or, duplicate. I know that we talk about duplication all the time, but, someone who's walked the walk and, has a little dirt under their nails from whatever it might be, whether it's, if it's professional, if it's music, if it's whatever field you want to be in, find somebody to mentor you, because it can take the pressure that you put on yourself off, and it allows you to be somebody else to walk their life into you.
Yeah, that's really quick on that.
Yeah.
That's so something that's been fascinating to me is that I started doing like you said, professional development, right, in my corporate job. And for a couple of years, they had like an outside consulting firm that they hired, and they actually had some really good things. And out of one of those, they said, go do informational interviews with executives or people in the organization, that have higher level positions and places that you might want to get. And one that was just interesting because I realized that, I really didn't care to interview half the executives in our company, right? I just didn't view them as good leaders. And then there were some others that I'm like, oh, wow, I never otherwise would talk to this person. They're very interesting. They're successful. Like I'm kind of intimidated to do it. But I knew it was a growth opportunity and I did it. And that was like one of the most valuable experiences. And I was like the only person that actually did that out of the class. People were like, oh, you're doing info interviews and you're like bothering executives. And I'm like, I don't know. Everybody's saying yes, and
I'm thrilled to do it.
Yeah.
thrilled to do it. And then I started to see patterns, and that's kind of a lot, of doing these interviews. Like, you start to see patterns when you're around enough successful people. And I've never had another container for that, outside of, then coming into network marketing, right? Like it's almost built in, and certainly culture and our team, it is. But it's like something that's built in, that you make just a great point that I want to underscore, which is like, it doesn't have to be in network marketing. Like, you can have mentors all over the place in all areas of your life, and most successful people do. But this gives a framework for those type of relationships.
Yeah. I mean, the Bill Gates and the Steve Jobs, like, everyone has had mentors. I mean, they're going to get to where they are, or they've gotten to where they are because they've followed suit. Success leaves clues. So you've got to follow that and nurture it. And I like that you mentioned finding mentors that have a little bit of dirt under their nails, right? This takes work. It takes grit. You've got to fight for what you want, right? And the lifestyle that you want, and the dreams that you have. What would you say, though, maybe from specifically to your team, that you're seeing where they're struggling the most in network marketing and in their business, and how you help them overcome that?
I think analysis paralysis and overthinking is the biggest hurdle right now. Action is your best coach, and that's where you tend to learn the most. You're going to make mistakes, you're going to screw up, and you have to accept the fact that you're not going to be perfect. The best way to learn is by being in action. So you may have a conversation with somebody and forget some details, or mix up some stats, or say the wrong thing to the right person. We always hear about saying the right thing to the wrong person and the wrong thing to the right person. I think when I think of what their biggest challenge is, it's overthinking. Like, just go out and do it. There's, when Nike they didn't coin it. They got it from a speech about the just do it. Literally, once you take the emotion out of it, and once you take the connection to you out of it, and you just get black and white, everything becomes so simple. There's a system in place. When you follow that system and you can check things off, you don't have to think about it. It just becomes kind of rote learning and rote activity. And you just do it. And I think, de-emotionalizing and desensitizing yourself, it's a skill, and it takes practice. And you have to get to that point where you're like, if I'm going to say the wrong thing to somebody, they're either going to give me grace, or they're going to shut the door.
Right.
And either one of them is okay. If they're going to shut the door, they weren't the right person for what I'm doing anyway.
Yeah. So, people struggle with that. What would you say is the best avenue to be able to just kind of work through that?
To work through the analysis paralysis?
Yeah.
And that's where the personal growth comes in. If you do the personal growth, and you can peel back your own layers of your fears and understand, why do I care if they tell me no? Why do I care? Why am I worried that I'm going to say the wrong thing? Why do I do this in other aspects of my life? Like, if your full-time job is a teacher, like, did you start in your teaching job day one knowing everything? Did you start in your trading job on day one knowing how to execute everything? And you have to give yourself grace. You have to just understand, you're never going to be perfect at what you do. You accept everything that you do as a growing process. You know that at the end of the day, you're going to be able to look back in 2 years. This actually just came up in my time hop this morning about, like, you don't feel like you're doing anything different every day, but then all of a sudden in 6 months you look back and everything's different. It's because you push yourself just a little bit more. You have to accept discomfort as part of your growth. And if you can't, then you have to figure out why. There's no, you never stop asking why with your situation. Okay, I'm uncomfortable to reach out to so-and-so, but why? I can't make that phone call and follow up because they told me they needed a few weeks, but why? I sent the wrong link to this person. I really feel silly. I can't reach back out to them, but why? Like, when you can get into that identifying process with yourself, then you get to that black and white place. And it's not easy, I will tell you that. But the more you lean into it, and the more you will allow a mentor or somebody who's in a support role to help you push through it, then you can get past it. Those blocks you can either use as obstacles or as building blocks.
Yeah. And I think that that's such a huge highlight in this industry of how we really grow more than just running a business, and that we don't, at least that in my experience, hasn't had in other areas of my life. I mean, I remember years ago, before I got started in network marketing, I thought the whole, self-help book and all that kind of stuff was for people who like were, effed up, right?
Yeah,
like they're all messed
that's
up.
the aisle
Right?
at Barnes and Noble that nobody has doubted.
Right. I'm not that person, right? And once I, I got in and they're like, oh, personal development, and like it's just like a core behavior that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm like, oh, I mean, we still talk about this, that how The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, like this was just a life-changing book for me, because I read it and I'm like, oh, now I get why so many things aren't happening, or they happen the way they did, right? So it's just such a, I like to highlight the fact that, when people are looking at this industry and thinking like, oh, it's not for me, we didn't go into it being like, oh, well, this is what I'm going to do. Like we had our own careers and we saw a path of where we thought our future was going to go. But we took this chance because it allowed something more to happen, and something more was even bigger than what we envisioned, right? So you learn, like you say, action is your coach, like Rick, our mentor, always says. And it's true, like the more you just kind of step into those behaviors, the more it starts to become part of who you are, and everything changes.
Yeah, and that's a really, really big point to bring up, because that's also part of my story too. When I decided to leave teaching, I turned 40, I spent the summer in Italy, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going back to school. Like I had this gut feeling that it just wasn't going to be right. And I kind of surrendered to this. I mean, it goes off on this faith-based practice, but I just surrendered to whatever the universe or God had in store for me. And I was like, I'm going to trust this, and I'm going to trust the journey. Like, I'm not going to fight to stay on a path that isn't working for me anymore. And the second that I did that, all of a sudden the doors opened and all these different opportunities presented themselves to me. And it was like nothing I had ever experienced. So it took just that one decision to say, okay, now I really can trust that there's a path set out for me, and I'm going to kind of, pull everything in and go along on this journey and not fight it anymore. Cause I was hitting the brakes and I was trying to steer the wheel, and I was really flustered and frustrated. And all of that personal growth and development that I had done, it gave me that strength in my mind, and it connected to my heart. And, Rick always says, you can't make a decision with your heart. You have to make a decision where your heart and your head are connected to make it make sense. And I was finally able to do that. And, even with whatever's going on in the world right now, I think you guys were on our call with Frank a week or so ago. At the end of our call, for whatever reason, I felt like I had just done an hour of yoga. Like I've been so calm and so okay with the craziness that's going on, because it's going to be here. This too shall pass. We're going to get through it. We're going to protect who we need to. We're going to do whatever we need to do. But like, I'm not getting anxious about it. I'm not worrying about it. And it was very strange, but it was because of all of those practices that we have done. And it just kept everything nice and steady.
Yeah, I do have to say I'm noticing that now. I sort of spent, I don't know, a few days like sucked into the news and this, and I didn't think it was as big a deal. And I was like, oh my God, this is a big deal. And now I'm like, you know what? I guess I've come to the same place, which is like, it's going to be here. It's not going away anytime soon. Whether we hit
no
the peak
control over it.
2 months, like we don't know, right? Like this is going to dominate the media until the election dominates the media, and then it's the holidays, and then it's 2021, and then like, holy crap, who knows what happened. And so I'm like, nope, I'm not giving the rest of my year to this, basically, right? Is the decision I made. But it's because I have, our team and mentorship and like people to plug into that. I feel my faith deepening. But it's important for me to have really certain, right? Like I think I'm certain, but like they're really certain. And I think that's really helpful during this time. And I think tribes and groups and that, like that's really emerging, and the importance of that is really being underscored right now. I want to ask you one other question, sort of tangential, just talking about sort of your background and your past, and the fact that like there is work involved here. You're a teacher, you're super organized, you've got all your systems right. I'm not quite that way, but I think everybody finds their strength in this industry is sort of my hypothesis. But I just want your take on that. Like, is this for a certain type of people? Or do you think that, there's a way that everybody can sort of get something out of this?
Oh, I love that question. So I think that anyone can do this business. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. But I think anyone can do this because of what you just said. The community piece of network marketing is what keeps a lot of people going. And, being somebody who's more of an organized, I mean, I've got a calendar sitting here, I've got a calendar over here. I block my time. I have realized what my strengths and weaknesses are through our community. And I know that my strengths can be a complement to somebody else's weaknesses and vice versa. So I think getting to know yourself and realizing what your strengths and weaknesses are is that's an awakening for a lot of people. So if you come in and you're disorganized and you're not good at time management and you're a person who who the only way you're going to get stuff done is if somebody gives you a list or if they just point you in the direction. There's some people who just come in and they're like, all right, I'm ready to go. What do I do? And there's others who are like, I need every little step broken down. That's available to everybody. So I think you don't even have to know in the beginning what your strengths and weaknesses are, but to be open to learn about them. Then you're going to graduate to different levels of success as you turn your weaknesses into strengths. And the word weakness to me I don't like that word for that, because the things that I'm a little bit more deficient in are, I do great with executing systems. I'm not good at creating them. So, having somebody around who can create them, I can get them executed. So we work together with it. So I think, anybody, if you're a chef, if you're a school principal, if you're a personal trainer, if you're an entrepreneur, and everybody can form a vision, anybody can have a dream. And then you just have to figure out if this is the vehicle that's going to get you to where you want to be. And that comes from an open mind and an open heart.
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about, weaknesses or deficiencies or whatever. And that's something I've had to learn a lot about myself, and the natural tendency, or at least mine, it's like, oh, well, we want to fix all the things that we feel are deficient or lacking. And I've gotten way more value out of the advice of actually just triple down on the things that you're really good at, and then find people to partner with and work with on the other aspects. And I think about it, like just a lot like a puzzle, which is like you're a solid piece, but then you've got like some jigs and some jags on the edges, and you need somebody else to like fill in those other edges. And I just think right. And I just think you make a great point that it's like, that's what's available once you're in a community of mentorship. And some of us are, we're building things together. We're building things separately. We're all working on our own dreams and our own goals and missions. And it all looks different for everybody. But there are, shoulders to lean on and hands to grab. So I think that's I don't know, just fantastic thing that you sort of stirred up in my mind.
And I will say that our team has been the most that I've like experienced in that community and how we like, I love our team, how much we support each other and how much we encourage the growth and the support. Like everyone is accessible to each other. I just have not seen that anywhere else, and I love it. Like it's just been such a great community that we joined into.
And the other part of that too is that coming here, you still get to be you. There's no box that you have to fit into. There's no, oh, like other companies, you're like, oh, I understand. That makes perfect sense. They fit into that box. Here, and you can look around. I mean, there's guys that work in the oil fields in Canada. There are, Fortune 500 CEOs. There's managers of high-end car dealerships. There are radio DJs. There's stay-at-home moms. There's teachers. There's everything. And you get to still be you and keep that identity and just, you make those connections. And it's like, oh, you look at that giant puzzle and it's like all of those different pieces of individuality make that beautiful picture together.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we greatly appreciate your time, your insight, learning a little bit more about your story, and hope that you stay well and stay sane. And we'll see you on the inside.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Christine.
Bye.
Bye, guys.